Well, thanks for being here today.
Yeah.
We've known each other for a few years now
Yeah.
through Crosspoint, and we're both part of the Soul Care Network, which is a network of Christian counselors and coaches affiliated with Crosspoint here in Louisville that just provides high-quality soul care to people in need. And as time's gone on, you and I both have overlapped in some of our work. Yeah, we've talked, more recently quite a bit as we've sort of collaborated on some cases together. But when Nick and I started this, one of our dreams was to be like, let's invite people that we love, know, and respect onto this thing and just talk, because, it's one thing to sort of get in the weeds of our own work and talk about it, but our work, I'm sure you've experienced this, like when you're just starting to meet with somebody, it's like you curiously pull one thread and that unravels a whole ball of yarn that like, oh, I don't know that that's what I was expecting. So as time's gone on, we just recognize it's like I'm rambling, but there's not really like one easy place to start. It's like, well, everything is sort of connected and touches it. So,
Yeah.
a lot of the work that we do at Restoration Soul Care is with men, specifically in the area of pornography addiction and sexual brokenness. And oftentimes when I'm meeting with one of the male clients and I'm asking questions about their relationships, their spouse, girlfriend, whatever, and then typically what happens is I'm like, okay, there's somebody involved that got hurt. They need to seek counseling too. So Lindsay is one of these faithful people that I trust and deeply respect and care about. So I refer many, many spouses to her for that purpose and that work. So this is Lindsey Blair. I'm excited to have her here today to talk and share about some of her work as we, again, sort of overlap to where we're at. So Lindsay, thanks for being here.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me here. It's a joy to work with you. I was just telling somebody the other day that you're one of my favorite coaches to work with. So I'm glad to be here. Happy to talk about this conversation, and I think it's an important topic.
Yeah. Well, thank you for saying that. That means a lot to me. So one of the areas that we haven't covered on our podcast yet, mostly because it's me and Nick and we're two dudes, and it's like we could talk about it, but I think it's so much more valuable to have a voice that's not a dude, such as yourself. So thank you. But the word betrayal-trauma is what comes to mind, or what we typically talk about in conjunction, especially with one of the spouses that we could be sending to you. I want to sort of hear about that perspective from your end, and I'm going to sort of throw a bunch of things out, and we can sort of pick through them. But like, what specifically happens? Like, if let's say a guy who's married and he gets caught, acting out sexually, or looking at pornography or something like that. Maybe like what the wife goes through, like what actions she could take, what maybe are some common things to feel after discovering something like that, and then maybe even what it looks like to go beyond that into like what can healing look like, and what are some things that the wife and the husband even in that capacity can move toward. Before we dive into all those things, how would you define betrayal trauma? Like, what is that?
Yeah, that's a great question. If you Google that word, you'll get several different definitions, but I think all of the definitions have a few things in common. Essentially, betrayal trauma is when there's been like a violation of trust in a relationship with somebody that you are attached to or bonded to. So it can be a relationship that's not in marriage. You can be betrayed by somebody that you're not married to. But for this specific conversation in this context, it's a violation of trust in this relationship that was supposed to be a safe, secure relationship where it's a relationship where there should be mutual dependence on one another and trust. And so essentially betrayal trauma happens when that trust is violated, and the person who's been betrayed no longer feels safe, no longer feels secure, and feels like, essentially, who is this person? I feel like I don't even know this person, because their reality has just been essentially shattered.
Yeah, man, that's heavy. It's Nick and I've sort of talked about this in some capacity, but it's like you wake up one morning and the reality that you've been sold in your relationship by this person that you deeply care about, who hopefully deeply cares about you, is sort of just uprooted. It's like you said the phrase, "I don't know who you are anymore," and it's like I've believed a false version of who you are, which sort of and it has you question your entire relationship. Like, what have we even been doing? I'm curious, like what does that look like out of the gate for someone who might be in that position. And I'm thinking, as people are listening to this, I know we have women who are watching and listening too, which is great.
Sure.
Like, what are, like, maybe even like as a way to help them feel validated, so that what I've learned is, over time, big picture, and I'm going to get back out in the weeds here. When we don't talk about things like this and we don't clearly state it, people feel like they're alone and like they're the only people who are dealing with it. And it feels hopeless. You can almost feel passively gaslit, I guess, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, what can that look like? Like, what might somebody be experiencing in the aftermath of betrayal?
Yeah, well, I think one word to sum it up, we'll start with this, is just crazy. And I have my own experience of feeling this way and navigating that. And one of the things I often say to women, and we say from the get-go, is you're not crazy. Because women will say, I feel crazy. And it's just affirming that everything that they're feeling, everything that they're experiencing is actually common. And it's because they've experienced trauma. That's why we call it trauma, because it impacts a person so deeply, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. And it's just disorienting in all of those different areas. And so it's just important, I think, for women to hear, like, you're not crazy. You're not crazy. What you're experiencing is actually common, and what you're experiencing makes sense. But more particularly, I think what can happen in that space, I would say shock. I think there's an element of shock. Sometimes women don't even always remember those early hours or days after a disclosure or a discovery, because their world has just been rocked. So there's sometimes an element of just shock, disorientation, hurt, anger, grief. I mean, I think there's just such a cluster of emotions. I think it's even hard, like you talked about, pulling the thread apart. Like, it's just a mess of a ball of emotions that I think we often don't even know where to start, like how to even begin navigating that. It just feels overwhelming, and I think feels very alone. I think women feel very lonely and don't know what to do or where to go with all of that.
Yeah. You said two words. Maybe it could be helpful to like clearly define what those are. You said discovery and disclosure.
Yes.
What is that?
Yes. So discovery is when a spouse, in this situation a woman, essentially stumbles upon and learns that her husband is looking at pornography, having an affair, acting out sexually. So it's essentially like an accidental thing. It's unexpected. So there's a huge element of surprise and shock that comes with that. Whereas disclosure is, in some cases, there are men and people who will decide for various reasons that they feel like they need to confess and come clean, whether they're feeling guilty, whether they're feeling like the wife might already have an idea that something is going on, and they decide to take that initiative and go ahead and have a conversation and say, essentially, hey, there's something that I need to talk to you about and share with you. Both of they're different ways of learning what has happened, but I think they're both still equally disorienting and impact women the same way. Like, they're both equally just as painful.
Yeah. Walk me through maybe like what like a first sort of meeting might look like with a woman, we'll say, sticking with our example, who, let's say she's just discovered that her husband's been using pornography and she's feeling crazy, sort of in panic mode, but she somehow got connected to you. Like, what are some of the first things, maybe even like the word triage is coming to mind, but like what do you do?
Yeah. Well, I think first and foremost, what I think is most important is to create a safe space and to assure the person that I'm working with that it's a safe space. So one, just kind of establishing safety. I think it's important to also establish a little bit of rapport and trust between the client and myself as well, which often means sometimes I'll share like a little glimpse of my own story. You want someone to not feel alone. Like, that's a big part of healing, is to feel like you're not alone in what you're carrying and navigating. So those are some initial things that I like seek to do, like right out of the gate whenever I'm talking to somebody or meeting with somebody. And then like the first session or first couple of sessions, I just want to create a safe space and hold space for the wife to just share what's happened. And a lot of times there's a lot of words, because there's there's a desire to want to understand. Like, our brains are meaning-making organs, and we want to understand. And so there's just a lot of words around trying to figure out, like, what has happened? Why has this happened? How could this have happened? How could I have missed this? And so that really, honestly, the first couple of sessions often just look like me listening, asking questions, encouraging, affirming, and helping women to just feel less alone and to feel validated.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I'm noticing now that like that can take a long time sometimes.
Yeah.
Because, and tell me if this is right,
Yeah.
it's not just that you woke up a morning, there was a discovery, and you're re-questioning like the last couple of weeks. Like you start questioning everything from your entire relationship.
Yeah.
Everything that was maybe unusual or off, or like, oh, I wonder why my husband does that or says things like that. Like all of that starts coming into question going, well, was that something? Was this something? Was that something? And it just like it sets your world on fire.
Yeah, and I think that's another common thing that happens is, and I think that's an important thing that you pointed out, it's not just thinking about the last couple of weeks or months. Like there is something that happens where I think you're able to almost go back in time and think about from the beginning of your relationship to the present moment, and then you're like, it's like speed memory where all of these things just keep popping up, like these moments or these things that didn't feel right or felt funny or things that you noticed but you didn't think much about it at the time, or you thought maybe you were making it up, or maybe that you were just, I don't know, like paranoid or nervous. And so you start connecting dots, I think is one of the ways that I would explain that. So you start connecting all of these dots, and it's just overwhelming because you're like, oh, like I think I knew things were happening, but I didn't trust myself. I didn't trust my gut. I didn't even think to ask questions. Excuse me. Or maybe you did ask questions and you didn't get honest answers for a long time.
Yeah.
So I think that is a very important thing to know, is that it is common to question and reevaluate, and I would say in some cases like completely dissect the entire relationship, because you're trying to figure out, again, how did I miss this? What else do I not know? Who is this person? Was anything even real sometimes?
Yeah.
It's like questioning reality.
Yeah. What are some of the common emotions that women in that circumstance might feel or encounter, the moments after and maybe even like weeks or months after?
Yeah, so many. I think hurt, like deep hurt, bitterness and resentment, that are all kind of tied in with the hurt. Fear. I think fear is an emotion that quickly comes online, and because I think what happens is when there's the discovery or the disclosure, and you're questioning everything, like I think it creates this sense of fear that I think is very hard to navigate. Suddenly your body is in that fight, flight, freeze mode, and you become hypervigilant because you were trying to protect yourself, like not wanting this to happen again. So I think a lot of women stay stuck in this place of fear because they're wanting to find safety. Like
Yeah.
the core need is to feel safe. And so, and they've just learned that they're not safe, and they actually had not been safe. So I think fear is a huge one. I think sometimes it takes women a bit to get here, but I think every woman is different on their journey. But I think anger is one of the emotions that we see a lot, which anger is good, because I think that anger, like once we can name the anger and kind of tap into that anger a little bit, that anger then gives women like the energy and the passion and the momentum to like keep doing the work on this journey of betrayal trauma recovery, because it's exhausting
Yeah.
and hard. But the anger, I mean, it's a good emotion that helps us to have that energy to keep going. And we're angry because something has happened that wasn't right. Like there was some kind of wrong or injustice that happened that we know wasn't right or okay. And I think grief, there's always sadness and then like grief under the surface. And sometimes, again, that can be difficult for women to kind of move into that space of grieving, because grieving means you have to be able to look back and name what you've lost, name the pain that you've endured, and that's a whole long process that can go on for years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you said that. What's coming to mind is how important it is for women in that scenario to have somebody like you, a coach, a counselor, a therapist, even a good friend that they feel safe with, that they can sort of just relax around and just let it out. It's important to have that other person, because if not, like, there is a level of isolation that you do experience, and then, like, well, who's your other person in life? And if that's only your spouse, now you're caught in this predicament of, I want to be safe with you, but also you're not safe. So also I'm going to talk to you and tell you all of the ways that I'm hurt and affected, which is probably going to trigger the spouse, and he's going to get flared up and like, can't you just get over this? And like, we're fine now. Like, I confessed it, blah, blah, blah. Like, your wife isn't asking you to apologize again or jump to fix anything right now. Like, she's just inviting you to sit in the pain with her, which is just listen and empathize and just know that, like, you did something that hurt her. And like, the reality is that she keeps showing up. She hasn't gone anywhere.
Yeah.
She's here, but like, she's in pain. And you're her spouse, the person that she trusts or doesn't trust the most in the world right now. And she's inviting you to sit in that pain with her and to not just try to like jump to quick fix it. So I think I'm just realizing the necessity of like, we have to have other people in our corner that's not just the person that hurt us, because that can, I think, create a lot of confusion for both people.
Yeah. And I think a lot of times I hear, it's so sad to hear this, but it's a common experience where women, like, they'll show up to meet with me, or maybe even in the betrayal-trauma recovery group, and they'll say, this is the first time that I've been able to talk to anyone else about this. And it's because it feels so vulnerable, and they feel like people won't be able to handle it, or maybe they've tried to talk to other people and they've gotten responses that were unintentionally harmful or just not helpful.
Yeah.
So I think it is so important to have somebody, like a safe space that you can process and work through all of those emotions, and then what's happened, and then begin working on like the healing process. And I think you bring up something else that's so important. So essentially with betrayal trauma, like, you're in this intimate relationship with somebody that you've committed to spend your whole life with. Like, this is somebody who could be one of your best friends, and the person that you've committed with, that you're in a covenant relationship that you love more than anybody else in the world, has harmed you in a very deep, intimate, painful way. And so suddenly, like, you're kind of stuck in this like dilemma. Like, there's a dilemma. Like, I love this person so much, and yet this person who I love so much, who says they love me, has hurt me in such a painful, intense way. So there's almost this like push-pull dynamic. Like, you want to be close at times, and then other times it's like, you've hurt me and I'm angry and mad and afraid, and I don't want to be close to you. Like, there's this push-pull dynamic, and I think you alluded to that a little bit. But when a wife moves toward a husband, and oftentimes, I know this is hard, but going back to what I said earlier, like, most women tend to need to verbalize and process with words, and it's a lot of words.
Yeah.
And specifically with this area of betrayal trauma, I'm finding from my own experience and from just sitting with other women that they need to process over and over and over and over. And I think each time it's because there's layers of pain that need to be tended to. And so I think just normalizing that. So the men and the women hear that it's normal for wives to need to verbalize and process. What makes it difficult is, I think, for the husband to sit in that space over and over and over again, I think can stir up some shame and stir up some guilt. And like, his reality is often that, okay, I'm being honest. Maybe for the first time, I've told her everything. I'm doing everything she's asked me to do. I'm meeting with my coach or counselor. I'm in a group. I'm doing this. Like, why are we back here? Why does she, I think one of the common things I hear, like, that creates conflict is the husband's like, why does she keep bringing this up?
Yeah, I thought we were past this.
Yeah, I thought we were past this. I thought she was over this. And it's like, well, buckle up, because it's probably going to be a 3 to 5 year journey at minimum, maybe even longer.
Yeah.
Again, going back to this idea of needing to make sense and understand what's happened. And I think when a wife goes to a husband and is wanting to talk to and process, like, she's not looking, I think you said this earlier, she's not looking for another, I'm so sorry, although it doesn't hurt, but,
Right.
and she's not looking for you to sit there and name how terrible and awful and horrible you are. Like,
She's also not trying to beat you up.
she's not trying to beat you up. She's not trying to attack you. I think men often feel like attacked.
Yeah.
And sometimes women do have this conversation with some energy. There's probably some anger or hurt behind it, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's an attack.
Right.
Going back to the safety, I think women are showing up in that space hoping to find some sense of safety and security in the relationship again. So I love this analogy of like a tree being blown in strong wind. Like, and you know how like those skinny trees that are still kind of babies, like they just kind of get pushed over by strong wind in a storm, but they don't quite break. They kind of hang in there, and then the storm's over and they're able to kind of come back up. And I'm like, okay, if a husband can just hang in there and just sort of be able to hold steady with that energy in that conversation and be like a safe, secure presence who is really trying to help your wife feel seen and heard and understood and loved and just cared for in that space. So that might mean like a 30-minute processing session that you're just listening, and at the end of it, it might mean that you say like, I'm so sorry, I know that is so hard, and I want to understand. Like, if the response might be something like that. And so many women will say like, that's really all I need to hear. I just need to know you're going to be here with me. You're going to be able to hang in here with me and process, like, be able to let me just process this pain, and you're still going to be there, and you're still going to be like, because you're trying to also create new experiences of safety. And I think that's one of the ways that you can do that. Like, because the marriage needs new experiences of safety and trust over and over and over again. So this is just one way that you can show up for your wife, give her that experience of safety, security, and trust, even though it's hard, because I know at the same time it's probably stirring up shame and guilt and other feelings as well, that I also just want to name are hard, and that's not easy. It's not an easy space.
Yeah, it's not. One of the things I coach men on is if you find yourself in that place, take a deep breath.
Yeah.
You don't have to defend yourself. Like, it's okay. We all know what you did. Yeah. It's out there. Your wife is coming to you because she's trying to develop some trust and safety with you, not because she's trying to beat you up about it. Yeah. So just own it.
Exactly.
Yeah, you're right. I did that, and I know it hurt you in some really profound ways, and I'm sorry.
That's like a beautiful response, and I think you're right. Like, it's so hard. I mean, we all experience this because we all navigate shame and guilt, but it's so hard when that defensive wall wants to come up. And I think that's what happens is I think oftentimes the husband has to sort of battle that internal reaction or response to be defensive and protective, and it's like you don't have to.
Yeah.
It's because in that space at that moment, it's actually not about you. It's not about what you've done. It's about being a safe, secure, loving presence for her.
Yeah. So I have this thing. I always feel this knee-jerk reaction to take everything back to Genesis.
Yes.
But
yes.
it's like, what did that relationship look like? Like, and I know like in chapter 2 there wasn't sin yet, but like even in that relationship, like there wasn't a defensive posture where like I have to get defensive about what I did. And I'm sure there was some disagreement about like, Adam, why did you plant the plant that way? You know, the roots go down, not up above the dirt. I don't know. That's dumb. But it's like, you know, there wasn't any defensiveness. It's like, oh, okay, great. Thank you for sharing that. Now I have a little more perspective. Like, let's change something and move forward, rather than just sort of digging in and be like, no, fight me on it, you know? It's not always helpful. But, yeah, that's really good. What else is sort of coming to mind for you, like, out of the gate early on, that, like, women absolutely need to hear so that they, again, can feel validated, not crazy, but also, like, have some, like, courage or some, like, anger to keep pushing forward and, like, do some work?
Yeah, I think for women, and I think this can be very difficult. There's a couple of women I've actually had this exact same conversation with this week around feeling anger or not being able to feel anger. And a lot of times that goes back to women not being able to, like, they feel guilty they feel like if they name how they've been harmed or how they've been hurt or what they need, that they're somehow like going to make things harder on their husband. Like they feel like that they should just be there to support him and care for him, and so that he can get well. And they think that they have to be the strong one. Like someone this week literally said, like, I feel like I have to be the strong one so that he can get well. And I think that can be tricky to navigate, because there are some spaces where that's what women are told by leaders and people in authority, that you need to be the strong one and support him and just trust God to change him. And then they're kind of left to just navigate all of that on their own.
Or they don't. Yeah, they don't. And so I think one thing that is important to get to is to help women to be able to actually name, like, no, this is hurtful and this has been harmful to me, and I've actually been impacted in very deep, painful, significant ways, and to actually help guide them into a place where they're able to actually name those things without feeling guilty, or like they're betraying their husband by naming some really hard things, or sometimes they don't want to make him look bad. Sometimes a woman, like, it's just easier to like be the strong one. I don't need to have needs. I can do this. I can be tough for him. But I think it's so important to name how you've been impacted, to name the pain. And there's actually a word for this. I think Michelle Mays may have coined the word betrayal blindness, where like it's this space where for whatever reason, there's probably lots of reasons, like under the surface, a wife is just not able to really name it for what it is. Like it's too hard for her to go there. And so I think there's like an element of self-protection there. Like she maybe just is in a space where she doesn't have the capacity to go there. And that's a delicate space too, because we can't push people, right? Like you have to just be present and hope that a person will sort of take these baby steps on their own, and we can kind of nudge them a little bit and encourage them. But I think naming the harm, naming the impact, giving yourself permission to be where you are, like giving yourself permission to feel whatever you're feeling without criticizing those thoughts, or like, I shouldn't feel that way because that's not a good emotion. So if we can get a wife to move from that space of kind of being blind to what's happened or unwilling to see, feeling like they have to be the person who's the strong person who can't fall apart, if we can help them to move into more of an honest, vulnerable space, and help them to be willing to just name those things and begin talking about what they need, begin talking about what they want, I think that can be helpful, but I think that's a challenge for a lot of wives. Does that answer your question? Yeah, it does.
Like I just rambled.
No, that was amazing. I heard you say, which I love this phrase, so I'm going to repeat it again. You have permission to be in pain. Mm-hmm. I don't think we believe that. I don't think women believe that. And I don't think anybody believes it, men or women. Yeah. And that's so important. One of my favorite passages that I take people to is James chapter 1, starting in verse 2, where he says, "Dear brothers and sisters, when troubles of any kind come your way, consider those an opportunity for great joy." And I'm going to be careful with this, because in that moment of betrayal, discovery, there's no joy. It is just chaos, pain, and it is rough. I think what James is inviting us to in that moment is to see our pain not as this thing that is against us, that is meant to ruin us, but something that is for us. Like, it's not easy. Pain's never easy. But you can have two postures, like, oh my gosh, like I'm on my heels, I'm trying to, like, how do I get out of this? Rather than, okay, I'm in pain. How does this work for me? And how do I want to move forward? And using some of that good anger energy to, like, this ain't right. We got to sort some stuff out. It's two very different postures. James doesn't say if, he says when. When you experience pain, you will have pain. I think that's part of the human experience. It's certainly part of the Christian life. But then he goes on to say, for when your faith is tested, then your endurance has a chance to grow. And sometimes I like to replace the word faith with trust. Yes. Because that's what's put on the line in these scenarios. Can I trust me? Can I trust other people? Can I trust my spouse? And maybe even can I trust God? James says when that's called into question, then your endurance has a chance to grow. And then the very next verse is great. It just says, so let it grow. Because when your endurance has had a chance to grow, you will be perfect and complete, needing nothing. And not that you actually become perfect, but you grow on into Christian maturity, more on the journey of sanctification, where it's like I've been through some stuff and God has used that to grow me, not to ruin me, but to grow me because he cares. So that was a long roundabout way of saying you have permission to be in pain, and it's okay. Not easy, but it's okay. And I resonate a lot with the thing you said that if women in the scenario feel like they have to be the strong ones, and so they're going to like hesitate or hold back in that scenario about bringing stuff up to keep the peace, man, it is, we talked about the hero martyr framework before, and the martyr framework says, well, that's okay. I'll just suffer and die with this pain, and I'm protecting everybody. Martyrs end up dead.
Exactly.
So there's no benefit in that. But I think what we do have the opportunity for, thinking about that verse in James, is not causing people pain, which I think is where we get hung up, but also we don't have to stand in the way of people's pain.
Right.
And in fact, I think we do a disservice to people when we try to mitigate people's pain for them. Well, I just won't say this because that's going to bring up hurt feelings. He's going to feel guilt. He's going to feel shame because of it. Rather than going, no, I'm hurt, and I need to share my pain with my spouse, and he's going to have to feel guilt. He's going to have to feel shame in order for God to do something with him, in order for him to do something with that, so that, God willing, he moves more toward honesty and he moves more toward change and transformation. But we don't get any of those things without going through the pain.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure you've heard this. This is one of my favorite quotes. Brene Brown says, you can't numb the dark without numbing the light. And I think that quote it's always stuck with me and just reminded me as somebody who also prefers to avoid pain in my life. But that like pain is an invitation for us to get curious about like what's hurting. Like it tells us there's some wound that needs to be tended to. Yeah. And we're human beings who live in a broken world, and we're human beings, like we're going to hurt each other. Like I'm going to cause other people pain and other people will cause me pain. Like this is the human condition, right? Yeah. Unfortunately, on this side of heaven. I think that we can, I mean, that's what we've grown up, most of us have learned how to do, is how to avoid pain. Like that's been the goal. We want to survive. We want to stay safe. Nobody wants to feel hard things. But I think giving ourselves permission to be where we are, giving ourselves permission to be honest about the pain that we're feeling, like that's living in honesty, vulnerability, integrity. That's reality. Yeah. Otherwise, we're just living disconnected from reality. And so going back to that space where we're giving ourselves permission to do that, and as a wife, being able to go to your husband and say, this is how I've been hurt, this is how I'm experiencing the pain, like this hurts, and this is why. Like we need to talk about that. And one of the things I like to say is like, how can we learn to be okay even when somebody else is not okay? Yeah. Like, isn't that like it's tough, but I think that's one of those situations where going to somebody and sharing how they've hurt you or how they've impacted you, like you're having to name your own pain and feel your own pain, and you're also causing the other person some discomfort or pain. Yep. But I think it's so important because I've just become convinced that whether it's a situation like that where we're naming pain, like even if it creates some discomfort or some conflict, like that's the way to like the true connection and intimacy that we want in relationships. Like that's it. Like I think that's the way. And I think going back to that passage in James, like what I love, like the word endurance, I also think about the word resilience. I think the more we do that, the more we grow more resilient in being able to sit in pain and it not take us down, so to speak. You know, we can actually feel the pain, experience it, name it, process it, and we can, at the end of that, be like, okay, I'm actually okay. Like that did not kill me. Yeah. And we can grow from that. Like, so we become more resilient. And I do think, like, as we learn to sit with the hard things and to sit with the pain, we do experience more joy and more life. Like we're able to live life more fully. Yeah. That's been my experience. Yeah, I love that. That's great. That's the definition of healthy integration, right? Yeah. We're integrated when we can sit with pain and have a deep level of knowing that this isn't going to kill me. It's uncomfortable, sure, but like we can go through this and we'll be okay. And I think just one very important thing, and you alluded to this earlier, but I think it's good just to reiterate, is that sometimes we need a safe person to help us learn how to do that.
Yeah.
That we can sit in a space with somebody safe who's able to listen and empathize and understand and validate our pain. And at the end of that, it's like, okay, that was actually okay. That was an experience of safety and security, and I think I can do that again. And I think that is also helpful in just kind of building that muscle of being more resilient in that area.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. Yeah. Well, we're getting close on time here, but one final question and then final thoughts is, I know we sort of talked a little bit about this earlier, but if there's like a couple of things that come to mind when you think out of the gate, men really need to know this about what their spouse is experiencing. Like, what are a couple of things, or maybe even one thing that, like, guys, you need to know this?
I think it's, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here.
Okay.
I don't think it's uncommon for men to sometimes think, like, I don't really understand why this is hurting her so much. Especially if we're talking about pornography use, men will often say, well, I didn't cheat.
Yeah,
like, I don't
man, I've heard that
understand,
before.
like, why is it, I don't understand why she's acting this way. Like, I didn't cheat.
Yeah.
Like, how is this hurting her? And I think there's this tendency to think that, like, this is just what I'm doing in my own time. It's not impacting her. And I think one of the things that's important for men to hear, and for women to hear too, is like, yes, it, like, everything that you're doing is actually impacting your marriage, and not just your marriage, but it's impacting all of your relationships in ways you probably aren't aware of.
Yeah.
So I think that's one important thing, is that, like, there's, like, your wife's not crazy. Your wife is not acting abnormally. Like, the way she's acting actually makes sense. Like, it makes sense that she would respond in this way, and that your choices and your actions just do have an impact. I think that can be hard and eye-opening, but it's true.
Yeah.
And so I think if we know that, and we can affirm that, then maybe husbands can enter into that space in a little bit of a different way, maybe with like more of a posture of humility and curiosity. Like, I'm going to be honest and humble about what's happening, and I'm going to be curious about how this has impacted her. And I think that posture of humility and curiosity will go a long, long way, you know. And again, I recognize that it's tough, because there's all kinds of relational dynamics, oftentimes years of relational dynamics that have been at play.
Yeah.
But I think that can be something that we can work towards, is just having that posture and and giving your wife permission to be where she is, and know that that's okay.
Yeah.
And it's not your job to fix it. You can't fix it. You can't fix it. You can be present.
Yeah.
You can provide a safe space. You can do your work. And I think that's the other thing we often say in those early days and weeks. And I know you and I have had this conversation often. Like, one of the most important questions that we ask women is, what do you need to feel safe, and what do you need to build trust? And a lot of times her work in those early days is learning how to, if she never has, learning how to advocate for those things, and go to her husband and say, this is what I need to see you doing to build safety and to reestablish trust. And so for the husband, the job is, or the kind of the response is, okay, whatever we need to do, whatever I need to do to help you to feel safe and to help start rebuilding that trust, I'm here for it.
Yep. That's great. And with helpful guidance from a good coach and a good counselor,
absolutely,
goes a long way.
Yeah.
This is great. Thank you for being here.
Great.
I appreciate
Great to be
you.
here.
Appreciate your work. I didn't ask you this ahead of time, but where can people find you if they want to reach out and do some coaching or get some help?
Yeah, you can email me at Lindsey, LINDSEYM, Blair79@gmail.com. That's just my personal email address. And then I do have a coaching just site that you can schedule coaching sessions, but I don't have that memorized.
Okay. Well, we'll get that when we'll
Okay.
post it in the show notes so people can see it. But yeah, one of the things that we always end every episode with is this phrase that we can't get away from, and not that we need to, but it's, don't do it alone. As we were created by relationship for relationship, and as the Relational Soul book says so profoundly, we're wounded in relationship, we're also healed in relationship, and that's God's plan A. So wherever you're at on the journey, wherever that looks like in your relationships, don't do this alone.
Absolutely.
Reach out, get help, invite somebody into that process so that you can start healing.